Okay, so let me ask you something. What's the greatest Call of Duty ever made? And before you say anything, I already know what a lot of you are thinking. Black Ops 2. And honestly, you're probably right.
Black Ops 2 came out in 2012. That's over a decade ago. And people are still playing it, still talking about it, still comparing every new Call of Duty to it. And every single time a new COD drops, the comment sections are flooded with people saying the same thing. It's not as good as Black Ops 2.
So what was it about this game? Why did it hit so different? And was it actually perfect? Because spoiler, it wasn't. There were some things about Black Ops 2 that were genuinely frustrating, but somehow it didn't matter. Because the good stuff was so good that it overshadowed everything else. That's what we're breaking down today. The good, the bad, and why Black Ops 2 is still the most iconic Call of Duty ever made.
Alright, so let's start with the campaign. Because Black Ops 2 did something no other Call of Duty had done before, or honestly, has done since. It gave you choices, like actual choices that changed the ending of the game. You could play through the whole campaign, and depending on what you did, who you saved, who you let die, certain missions you completed or failed, you'd get a completely different ending. There were multiple endings in a Call of Duty game. That was mind blowing in 2012.
The story itself was split between two timelines. You had the 1980s Cold War era following Alex Mason, which connected back to the original Black Ops. And then you had 2025, which is basically now following his son David Mason, hunting down this villain called Raul Menendez.
And Menendez was the key because he wasn't just some random evil guy. He had a backstory. He had reasons for doing what he did. He genuinely believed he was fighting for the people. He was manipulative, intelligent, dangerous, and honestly, one of the best written villains in gaming history, not just COD history.
The campaign pulled you in because you actually cared about what happened. That's rare for a shooter. Most people skip COD campaigns. Black Ops 2 had people finishing it multiple times just to see every ending. Okay, now, multiplayer, because let's be real, this is why most people bought the game. And Black Ops 2 multiplayer was genuinely special. The biggest thing Treyarch did was introduce the Pick 10 system, and this changed everything. Before Pick 10, loadouts in COD were pretty rigid. You had set slots, primary weapon, secondary weapon, perks, equipment. You had to fill them in specific ways. Pick 10 threw all of that out. You got 10 points to spend however you wanted. Want 3 attachments on your gun and no secondary? Cool. Want 6 perks and no grenades? Go ahead. Want to run no perks at all and stack your weapon with every attachment possible? Do it. The choice was completely yours.
That flexibility meant there were thousands of viable loadout combinations, and because everyone was running something different, the meta was always interesting. There was no one dominant setup that everyone copied. You had to figure out what worked for your playstyle. The maps were also brilliant. Standoff, Raid, Slums, Nuketown 2025. These are maps people still talk about as some of the best in COD history. They were designed with flow in mind. You always knew where the action was going to happen. There were clear lanes, clear sightlines, clear choke points. Nothing felt random or unfair. And the competitive scene, the esports scene, really took off with Black Ops 2. It was the first COD game that genuinely felt built for competitive play. The gunfights were fair, the spawns were mostly consistent, and the skill gap was real. Good players won because they were better, not because they got lucky.
Now, zombies. And if you're a COD fan, you know how important this is.
Zombies mode started back in World, at war. As basically a bonus mode, nobody expected to become huge. Black Ops 1 expanded it. But Black Ops 2 took it to a completely different level. Transit was the first map in Black Ops 2 Zombies, and it was this massive open world concept where you traveled between locations on a bus while fighting off zombies. It was ambitious, maybe a little too ambitious, because Transit had some issues. The fog made it frustrating, the denizens, those little creatures that jumped on your face, were annoying as hell, and navigating the map was confusing at first. But then came Die Rise and Mob of the Dead. And Mob of the Dead specifically is considered by a lot of people to be the greatest zombies map ever made. Alcatraz Island, four prisoners trying to escape. An incredible Easter egg storyline, incredible atmosphere. If you haven't played Mob of the Dead, go play it right now. And then Buried and Origins closed out the game. And Origins, especially that map, was a masterpiece. Giant robots stomping around, World War I setting, the Primus crew, the staffs. It set up an entire storyline that carried through multiple games. Zombies in Black Ops 2 wasn't just a mode, it was basically a separate game inside the game. And for millions of players, it was the reason they bought the game.
Okay, so now let's talk about the bad. Because Black Ops 2 wasn't perfect, not even close. First thing, lag compensation. This was a huge issue. The way the game handled connections meant that sometimes players with worse internet connections actually had an advantage. They'd be registering hits before the game caught up. And if you were the guy with good internet on the wrong end of that, it felt completely unfair. You'd empty a full clip into someone, and they'd turn around and kill you with two bullets. That was lag compensation, and it drove people absolutely insane.
Second thing, the Peacekeeper DLC weapon. The Peacekeeper was a submachine gun that got added as paid DLC, and it was overpowered, like genuinely broken for a period. People who bought the DLC had an advantage over people who didn't. In a competitive shooter, that's a problem. You should win because you're better, not because you spent more money.
Third thing, transit. Look, we talked about zombies being great, but transit specifically was a mess at launch. The fog was too thick, the buildables were confusing, the map was too big for what the mode was designed for. It's the one part of Black Ops 2 that most people look back on and go, yeah, that wasn't great. And fourth, some of the DLC maps weren't very good. Hydro especially was widely considered one of the worst multiplayer maps in COD history. The design was frustrating, the layout didn't flow well, and most people avoided it when it came up in rotation.
So yeah, Black Ops 2 had its problems. But here's the thing, even with all of that, it was still the best COD game. That's how good the rest of it was.
So why are we still talking about Black Ops 2 in 2026? What makes a game from 2012 still relevant 14 years later? A few things. First, nostalgia is real. A whole generation of gamers grew up on Black Ops 2. It was the game they played after school, the game they stayed up all night playing on weekends, the game they bonded with their friends over. That emotional connection doesn't go away. When you hear the Black Ops 2 menu music, something happens in your brain. You're back in 2012.
But it's not just nostalgia, because nostalgia fades. What keeps Black Ops 2 relevant is that the core design genuinely holds up. Pick 10 is still a brilliant system. The maps are still well designed. The gunplay still feels good. If you go back and play it today, it doesn't feel like an old game. It feels like a tight, well made shooter that still works. And every year when a new COD drops and people are disappointed, which happens basically every year, they go back to Black Ops 2 and it reminds them of what the franchise is capable of when everything clicks.
Black Ops 2 set a standard that Call of Duty has been chasing ever since, and most people would argue they haven't caught it yet. So let's bring it all together. Black Ops 2 was iconic because it had a story that actually made you think, a multiplayer system that gave you real freedom with Pick 10, maps that were designed with flow and fairness in mind, a zombies mode that was basically a whole separate game, and a competitive scene that proved COD could be taken seriously at the highest level. Was it perfect? No. Lag compensation was a nightmare, transit was frustrating, and some of the DLC was unbalanced. But none of that changed the fact that Black Ops 2 was a special game that hit at exactly the right moment in gaming history.
And the reason people are still talking about it in 2026 is because deep down, everyone knows they haven't made one like it since.
If you agree, drop it in the comments. And if you think another COD is better than Black Ops 2, I genuinely want to hear your argument, because that's a brave opinion. Like the video if you enjoyed the breakdown, subscribe if you want more content like this. I'll catch you in the next one.
Max ammo!